The jungle was never quiet. Even when the wind slept, the trees whispered. Even when no animals cried, the leaves still moved as if they held secrets too big to say aloud. In the middle of this wild, glowing, alien jungle walked a girl named Jira. Her soft violet skin shimmered under the weak twin suns. She was young, barely into her teenage years by her species count, but her heart was older heavy, with worry. She wasn't supposed to be here. The elders of her tribe had warned her, don't go near the boundary. But her mother was sick. The healers needed moon leaves, and they only grew near the river. Past the trees marked with red ash, Jera kept her steps soft, avoiding the thorns and insect nests. Her 6 fingers brushed aside glowing blue vines as she walked deeper into the green wild. She didn't hear it at first, but the silence had changed. It wasn't natural. The birds had stopped chirping. She paused. That's when she heard it. The low, wet growl. Her body froze. Her head turned slowly. There, near the trees, stood a massive beast. It looked like a lion, but not the kind she had seen in her tribe's old pictures of earth animals. This one was larger, twice her height, covered in thick brown gold fur, with burning red eyes and sharp tusks that curled like a demon's smile. Its breathing was slow, deep, heavy. Jera dropped the basket of herbs. She ran, her thin legs pushed hard against the uneven jungle floor. She slipped on wet moss, but kept moving. The beast roared behind her, loud enough to make her bones shake. It wasn't chasing. It was playing. It knew it would catch her. Jera's chest burned. She screamed for help, but only the trees heard her. Then her foot caught on a thick root. She fell hard. Her forehead hit the dirt. The world spun. She looked up, eyes full of fear. The lion was right there now, eyes glowing brighter, its body lowered, ready to pounce. Its jaws opened. Jera screamed out, and then crack. A spear flew through the air and struck the lion in the shoulder. It roared in pain, stumbling back. Jera blinked. A figure ran out of the trees. Tall, broad, skin rough and darkened by sun. His hair was wild, face half covered with a dirty scarf. He held another spear in one hand, a sharp knife tied to his belt. He didn't speak. He didn't hesitate. He stood between her and the lion. The lion growled louder. The man shouted back. The beast lunged, and the man threw his second spear. It missed the heart, but scratched its cheek. The lion stopped, snorted, then with one last hateful stare, it turned and vanished back into the jungle. The man turned slowly. Jera stared at him. She had never seen a human before, not in real life. Her people told stories about them. Some called them dangerous, others called them extinct, but this one had just saved her life. She tried to speak. Her voice shook. Who are you?" The man didn't reply. His eyes scanned the trees, then moved to her bruised forehead and bleeding hand. He knelt and gently reached for her arm. Jera flinched, but he didn't hurt her. He pulled a small pack from his waist and opened it. Inside were bandages, some torn cloth, and a tiny bottle of greenish gel. He applied it softly to her wound. It stung, but it helped. Still, he didn't speak. He stood and looked back toward the direction of the river. He pointed, then pointed to her. Then made a motion with his hand. Come. Jera didn't know why, but she followed. Maybe it was the fear still in her chest. Maybe it was the warmth in his eyes. Maybe it was something deeper, something that whispered. This man was not just a stranger. They walked through thick vines and glowing roots, passing strange stone pillars covered in moss. The jungle seemed to watch them, but didn't stop them. After a while, they reached a hill. At the top stood a broken ship, old, covered in vines. It looked like it had crashed years ago. The man opened a metal door and stepped in. Jera followed. Inside was a small fire pit, metal pieces stacked like tools, and a faded photograph. She stared at it. A human woman. A child, smiling, the man. Caught her looking and quickly turned it face down. He sat near the fire and sharpened the blade. Jera sat in the corner, unsure she was safe. For now, but the lion was still out there and she didn't know who this human was, or why he was alone in the wild. All she knew was this: the jungle may not forgive. But maybe, just maybe, humans do. The fire cracked softly inside the broken ship. Outside, the jungle breathed with night sounds, clicks, chirps, and low moans of distant creatures. Jera sat on a folded blanket near the cold metal wall, hugging her knees. Across from her, the human man moved silently. He placed more sticks into the fire, keeping the flames alive. His eyes never stayed still. Every few seconds, he would glance at the entrance or listen closely. Like a soldier still at war. Jera watched him carefully. He hadn't said a single word since saving her. Not even one. Who was he? He looked strong but also tired. His beard was thick, his skin had scars. Some were old and faded. Others were fresh and red. His clothes were torn but patched with care. His hands were rough, but when he cleaned her wound earlier, they were gentle. He looked like someone who had seen too much. Jera wanted to ask many things, but her tongue felt heavy. She had heard stories of humans when she was young, how they were dangerous, unpredictable, maybe even extinct. Some elders said they once ruled parts of the galaxy. Others said they had been hunted down and wiped out long ago. But this man didn't look like a killer. He looked lonely. She broke the silence. "Thank you for saving me." He didn't respond. She tried again. "My name is Jera." Still nothing. She pointed at herself. "Jera." Then she slowly pointed at him. "You?" The man blinked. He stared at her finger, then at her face. His lips moved a little, like they wanted to speak, but forgot how. After a pause, he finally spoke. "Daniel." His voice was rough, deep, unused. Jera smiled. "Danielle," she repeated softly. Daniel nodded once and returned to sharpening a piece of metal. Jera glanced at the photo. On the small shelf, the one he had turned face down. She remembered it clearly. A smiling woman and a child, human. Maybe it was his family. Maybe it was why he came to this planet. Or maybe they were gone. Before she could ask, Daniel stood and walked to the door. He stared into the dark jungle. His hand rested on the handle of his knife. Something was bothering him. Jera followed, saying quiet. Then she heard it too. Leaves rustling. Too fast. Too close. Suddenly, Daniel raised his hand, signaling her to stay still. He grabbed a long stick from the corner sharp at one end and stepped outside. Jera's heart beat faster. She peeked from the doorway. The jungle was too quiet again. Daniel crouched low, eyes scanning the trees. Jera saw the tension in his muscles. He was ready to fight again. Her stomach twisted. What if the lion had returned? What if this time it finished what it started? Then something moved near the bush. A pair of glowing eyes appeared. Jera gasped. But Daniel didn't attack. Instead, he slowly lowered his weapon. A small creature walked out. It looked like a jungle rodent, long and thin, with blue fur and 6 legs. It sniffed the air, saw the human, and ran away. Daniel exhaled, lowering his arms. Jera stepped outside. "You thought it was the lion again, didn't you?" Daniel didn't answer, but his silence said everything. Jera looked at the jungle, then at Daniel. "Why are you here?" "Alone?" Daniel looked at the stars above the jungle canopy. "Ship crashed," he finally said. "Long time ago." Jera nodded slowly. "And your family?" He looked away. She didn't ask again. The two of them sat near the ship, watching the firelight dance on the leaves. For the first time, the night felt less dangerous. "Why did you help me?" Jera asked softly. Daniel paused. "Because you needed help." Simple words. But they hit something inside her. Her tribe didn't always believe in helping outsiders. They said the jungle only protects its own. But this man, this human, risked his life for someone he didn't even know, and he didn't want anything in return. Maybe humans weren't monsters after all. Maybe they were something else. Jera looked up at him. Can I stay here, just for the night? Daniel nodded once. Then to her surprise he spoke again. But be careful, jungle watches. She smiled. So do I. They returned inside, and Daniel locked the metal door behind them. He gave her a small blanket and motioned to a corner of the ship. It was dusty, but safe. As she lay down, Jera kept thinking, who was Daniel really? How had he survived alone for so long? And most importantly, what else was hiding in the jungle? Outside, unseen by both of them, a pair of glowing red eyes blinked slowly in the darkness. The lion was not gone. It was waiting. Watching. And it remembered the man who dared to fight it. The next morning came with a soft mist in the air. Light from the twin suns filtered through the broken roof of the crashed ship, painting golden lines on the floor. Jera opened her eyes slowly. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she remembered the lion, the chase, and the human who saved her. Daniel. She sat up and looked around. The fire was out. The air was cool and damp. Daniel wasn't inside. Her heart skipped. She stood and peeked out the door. He was there, crouching near the stream behind the ship. His hands were deep in the water. He was washing something. Her basket, the one she dropped while running for her life. He had found it. Jera stepped outside and walked carefully to him. Her footsteps made soft crunches on the jungle floor. Daniel didn't look up, but he pushed the clean basket toward her. She took it with both hands and smiled. Thank you. He only gave a small nod. Jera looked around. It was the first time she had really noticed the place. His shelter wasn't just the crashed ship. It was a whole little camp half hidden under the jungle vines. There were metal sheets propped up for rainwater collection. Tools made from both earth and alien parts hung on wooden poles. A broken machine sat under a tarp, maybe a generator or a scanner. And nearby, under a tree, was a small grave marked with a stone. Jera didn't ask about it. Instead, she pointed to the machine. What is that? Daniel looked over. Broken, he said. Used to be a beacon. Jera's eyes widened. To call for rescue? He nodded slowly. But no one came. The words hit hard. He had tried. He had waited, but help never arrived. And now he was part of the jungle. Jera sat beside him. How long have you been here? Daniel stared at the stream. Too long. He said it like it was the only answer that mattered. For a while, neither of them spoke. The jungle around them was waking up, birds flying low, vines moving in the wind, insects buzzing softly. But even with the beauty, a tension hung in the air. Jera touched the scar on her leg. The lion, it won't give up, will it? Daniel shook his head. No, it's smart, it's watching. A chill ran through her. She had hoped the beast would be gone by now. But something told her this wasn't just a hungry predator. It was something worse, a hunter with a grudge. Daniel stood and walked toward his shelter. Jera followed him back inside. He reached into a metal box and pulled out several items: old wires, solar panels, a broken comms chip, a short blade made from alien metal, and something that looked like a stun device. He laid them out like a puzzle. What are you doing? She asked. He didn't answer right away. Then he said, making traps. Her eyes widened. You think it will come again? He looked straight at her. Yes, it will. Jera clenched her fists. She had been foolish to go near the river alone. Now her mistake was a threat, not just to herself, but to him too. I want to help, she said. Daniel raised an eyebrow. I can make warning signs, she said quickly. My tribe taught me jungle signals. We use scent stones and vine markers. If I place them around your shelter, we'll know if something crosses into the area. He considered this for a long second, then nodded once. She smiled. "I'll start." Now. While Daniel worked on his traps, Jera ran around the trees, tying glowing vines in X shapes and placing small rocks that gave off a strong herbal scent when crushed. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. Hours passed. Suns moved higher in the sky. By evening, the camp was ringed with markers and silent traps. No words were needed between them. They worked like a team, one building, one scouting. That night, they ate together. Roasted jungle root and dried fruit. It wasn't much, but it filled their stomachs. Jera looked at the photo again. The one with the smiling woman and child. Daniel didn't hide it this time. "Your family?" she asked gently. He nodded, voice low. "Wife, daughter," Jera swallowed. "What happened?" His eyes darkened. "They were on the ship. The crash. They didn't make it." Her heart dropped. No wonder he was silent. No wonder he lived like a ghost in the jungle. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Daniel didn't reply. But for the first time, she saw something in his face, a crack in the wall, a memory, a pain, a person still inside. That night before sleeping, Jera sat outside the shelter, staring at the stars. Daniel joined her, quietly. The jungle was still, but in the far distance, a low growl echoed. She didn't look at him, but she whispered, "It's coming back, isn't it?" Daniel nodded slowly. "Yes, tomorrow it hunts again." The night was silent again, not peaceful silent. Jera sat by the fire with her arms wrapped around her knees, her back against the cold wall of the ship. The flames crackled softly, but the jungle beyond felt wrong. It wasn't sleeping. It was holding its breath. Daniel stood at the entrance of the shelter, spear in hand. He hadn't sat down all night. His sharp eyes moved slowly from tree to tree, watching, waiting. Jera whispered, "Do you feel it too?" He nodded once. "It's close." Earlier that day, they had set more traps, pressure-triggered snares, sharpened branches hidden under leaves, and an electric shock wire made from Daniel's broken tech. Jera had scattered her scent stones around the trees again, but deep inside, they both knew if the lion wanted to get in, it would. Suddenly, something cracked, not far, just beyond the shelter. Daniel spun toward the sound. Jera froze, then another crack, louder. Daniel slowly reached for the switch inside the door. He flicked it. A hidden light powered by an old solar panel lit up the jungle outside. A narrow circle of light revealed moving leaves, but no creature. "Don't go out," Jera whispered, her voice shaking, but Daniel stepped forward. Slow and calm. He moved like a hunter, but his heart beat fast. Jera stood and grabbed the backup spear from the corner. She wasn't going to hide. The air shifted. Then it roared, louder than before, closer. The lion burst from the shadows, leaping through the trees, its red eyes locked onto Daniel. Its shoulder was still wounded from the first fight, but it looked even more dangerous now, angrier, faster, hungrier. Daniel dived to the side. The lion slammed into the side of the shelter, metal bending from its weight. Jera screamed and threw the backup spear. It missed. Daniel rolled and came up with his knife. The lion turned toward him again, jaws wide. Then snap! One of the hidden snares activated. The beast's back leg caught in the wire. It howled in pain and fury, twisting, dragging the trap with it. Daniel didn't wait. He rushed forward and slashed the beast's side. Blood sprayed. The lion roared and kicked back, its claw catching Daniel in the ribs. He flew backward into the mud. "Daniel!" Jera cried. She ran toward him, heart pounding, but the lion broke free from the trap and turned to her. It growled. She stopped. It began to move toward her. Slow and deliberate, Jera raised a small metal rod, the shock stick Daniel had built from broken parts. Her hands shook, but she held it high. "Stay back," she shouted. The lion didn't understand her words, but it understood her fear. It lunged at the last second. Daniel grabbed a rock and threw it with all his strength. It struck the lion's injured shoulder. The beast roared in pain again and turned back to him. Daniel's shirt was torn, his side bleeding badly. But he didn't stop. He grabbed the last spear and faced the creature, panting. "Jera," he called, voice rough. "Run!" But she didn't. She ran toward him, not away. Together, they stood side by side facing the monster. The lion snarled and leaped again. Jera jabbed the shock stick into its side as Daniel raised the spear high and drove it down with all his strength. Spear sank deep. The lion screamed. It stumbled, staggered, and then it collapsed. For a moment, everything went still. Only the sound of Jera's heavy breathing filled the jungle air. Then Daniel fell to his knees. Jera rushed to him, catching his head before it hit the ground. Blood soaked his shirt. "Stay with me," she cried. He blinked slowly. "Is it dead?" She looked at the lion. It didn't move. "Yes," she whispered. "You killed it." Daniel gave a tired smile. "Good." His head dropped. "No," Jera shouted. She dragged him back into the shelter, panting. She ripped cloth from the supplies and pressed it against his wounds. Her hands were shaking. Her heart was racing. "You saved me again," she whispered. "Now it's my turn." She worked for hours, cleaning, wrapping, whispering words of comfort. When the suns rose, Daniel was still alive. Barely, but breathing. Jera sat beside him, her eyes red from tears and lack of sleep. She had never thought she'd care for a human, but now she couldn't imagine leaving him. Outside the shelter, the lion's body lay still, but in the trees above, other eyes watched. The jungle had changed, and so had Jera. She wasn't just a scared girl anymore. She was someone who stood between death and life. And now she had something worth fighting for. The lion was gone, but its shadow still lived in the air. Its body had been dragged away by jungle creatures. Not even bones remained. Yet Jera still flinched at every crack of a branch. Inside the broken ship, Daniel slept. His wounds were deep. His body fought fever. Every time he groaned or moved, Jera rushed to his side with water, herbs, or a damp cloth. She hadn't left him alone, not even once. At night, she curled up near the fire. During the day, she kept the traps ready, checked the scent stones, and made sure nothing came close. The jungle watched, but it stayed quiet. One morning, Daniel opened his eyes. Jera almost dropped the bowl of fruit in her hands. "You're awake." He blinked, confused. His voice came out dry. "How long?" "4 days," she whispered, smiling. "You scared me." Daniel looked down at his bandaged chest. "You did this?" She nodded. "I remembered what the elders taught me. And you gave me your life. I only gave some of it back." He tried to sit up, but winced. Jera quickly helped him lean against the wall. Daniel looked around. "Lion?" "Dead," she said. "You killed it. We killed it." He gave a tired smile. "Good." For the next few hours, they talked more than they ever had. About his ship, her tribe, the jungle, his past, her fears. He didn't say everything, but he said enough. Jera told him about her mother, how she had gone to gather herbs and gotten lost, how her tribe gave up searching, how Jera never gave up. "That's why I was near the boundary," she whispered, "looking for the same herb she once needed." Daniel nodded. "You're brave." She looked at him. "So are you." In the days that followed, Daniel got stronger. His steps were slower, his breath still shaky, but he moved, he worked. He sharpened tools again. He fixed the metal door. He even smiled more. Jera noticed something change, not just in him, but in her. She felt calmer, stronger, like the jungle didn't scare her anymore. Not as much. One night they sat by the fire. Daniel was fixing a broken stun rod. Jera was carving symbols into a flat piece of wood. "What's that?" he asked. "A bond mark," she said. "In my tribe, we carve one when two lives are shared in danger." He watched her work in silence. She held it out. The symbol showed two figures, one tall, one small, standing before a giant beast. Flames surrounded them, but the two figures stood strong. Daniel reached out and touched it. "It's us," she said. He didn't speak, but his eyes said everything. The next morning, Jira looked out beyond the camp. A distant column of smoke rose in the sky, too far to be natural. "My tribe," she whispered. Daniel stepped beside her. "They're close." Jira's stomach twisted. She had almost forgotten. She had stayed so long with Daniel, she hadn't even thought about going back. Would they welcome her? Would they let Daniel live? "They won't understand," she said quietly. Daniel didn't respond. He only adjusted his belt and checked the traps again. That afternoon, they heard footsteps, not animal sounds. Not sneaky, loud, heavy. Boots. Zara grabbed her knife. "It's them." Daniel stood at the edge of the shelter, holding his spear. Not in fear, but in readiness. He wasn't going to run, neither was she. Minutes later, 3 figures stepped into the clearing. Scouts from her tribe. Their armor was dark red, their faces painted with black ink. One of them raised a weapon. Jera shouted, "Wait! He's not the enemy." The scout stepped forward. "You've been missing for cycles. We thought the jungle took you." She pointed to Daniel. "He saved me. The lion almost killed me. He fought it. He bled for me." The scout narrowed his eyes. "He's human." Jera stood tall. "And he's not your enemy." Another scout stepped forward. "The elders must decide." Daniel didn't say a word. He stood like a stone. Finally, the leader nodded. "Come with us." Jera looked at Daniel. He whispered, "You don't have to." But she reached for his hand. "Yes, I do." They walked together past the vines, through the trees, toward the village Jera once called home. She didn't know what waited there: judgment, anger, exile. But one thing was sure: whatever happened, she wouldn't face it alone. Not anymore. Jera stepped through the gates of her village after weeks in the wild. But it didn't feel like home anymore. The air was colder. The eyes around her were sharper. Her people gathered fast: warriors, elders, even children. Everyone stared at the human walking beside her. Daniel's face was calm, but his grip on his spear was firm. He walked like a soldier who had seen worse, but knew danger when he saw it. A woman rushed forward. Jera's aunt. "Jera!" she cried, wrapping her arms around her. "We thought you were gone." "I survived," Jera whispered. "Because of him." She turned and looked at Daniel. Her voice rose. "He saved my life from the jungle lion, twice." The crowd murmured. "He's human," someone muttered. "They're extinct," said another. "Dangerous," a voice whispered from the back. The warriors surrounded Daniel now, spears pointed at his chest. He didn't flinch. He didn't speak. He only looked at Jera. "It's okay," she told him. "Stay still. Let me speak to the elders." The village council was already gathering in the center circle. 5 robed elders sat on stone seats, carved with symbols older than the trees. Their faces were unreadable. Their eyes, ancient and sharp. Jera stood before them. They asked no questions. Only the oldest one spoke. Her name was Maka, and her voice was low and slow like thunder before rain. "You broke the boundary." "Why?" Jera lifted her chin. "To gather moon herbs. For the sick." "You risked your life," Maka said. "I did," Jera nodded. "And I nearly lost it." The old woman's eyes narrowed. "And the human?" Jera pointed at Daniel. "He saved me. I would be dead without him." A short elder whispered, "A human in our lands is a threat. He cannot stay." Jera stepped forward. "Why not?" A loud gasp moved through the crowd. "He hunted the lion that has killed many of ours," she continued. "He treated my wounds. He shared his food, his shelter. He asked for nothing. Another elder spoke. The laws are clear. No outsiders. Jera's voice cracked. Then the laws are blind. The silence was heavy. Even Daniel looked at her, surprised. One warrior stepped forward. If she defends the human, she may take exile with him. Maka raised a hand, stopping the murmurs. She looked at Daniel for a long moment. Then slowly she spoke. Step forward, human. Daniel did. Maka stared into his eyes. Why did you save her? His voice was soft but steady. Because she needed saving. A pause. That is all? He nodded. That is enough. Jera's throat tightened. The elder looked at her again. You would leave your home for him. Jera stepped beside Daniel. I already left it, when no one came for me. When no one believed I was alive, he did more than save me. He reminded me what kindness is. Maka's old eyes softened, just a little. You are young, she said. Your heart is full of fire. Fire burns. But it also brings light, Jera said. The crowd stayed silent. The elders leaned in close, whispering among themselves. Finally Maka stood. The human may go free, she declared, voice loud. But he is not to return. If he crosses our boundary again, he will be hunted as a threat. Daniel nodded once, understood. And the girl? A warrior asked. Maka turned to Jera. She may choose. Everyone held their breath. Jera looked at her people, her village, her blood, her history. Then she looked at Daniel, her savior, her friend, her fire in the wild. She didn't need time. I choose him. Gasps echoed. Auntie cried out. Jera, you are just a child. I was, she said calmly, but the jungle changed me. She took Daniel's hand. Without another word, they turned and walked toward the gate. No one stopped them. No one dared. As they passed the edge of the village, Jera looked back one last time. The place where she was born would no longer be her home. Her home was now wherever he was. They walked for hours in silence. Daniel finally broke it. You didn't have to choose me, Jera smiled. I didn't. I chose what was right. He looked at her with quiet eyes. I won't be easy to live with, she laughed gently. You already snore. He smiled for real. When they reached the edge of the jungle, Daniel stopped. You're sure? I've never been more sure, she said. The jungle waited, but they were not afraid anymore. They had faced death, judgment, exile. Now they faced life together. The jungle welcomed them back, but it was different now. Jera no longer walked with fear. Her steps were firm. Her eyes didn't search the trees in panic. She had left behind the girl who once ran from shadows. Now she walked beside a man who had once lived like a shadow himself. Daniel limped slightly. His side was healing, but the wound still ached. Still, he carried his spear with ease. His strength was returning slowly, but surely. They reached the hidden shelter by sunset. The broken ship stood silent beneath glowing vines. The fire pit waited, cold but familiar. The jungle sounds around them were peaceful this time. No growls, no threats. Jera stepped inside first. She turned to him with a small smile. Where? Home. Daniel stared for a moment. Strange word. Why? He shrugged. Haven't used it in years. She sat near the fire and pulled out the carved bond mark from her satchel, the symbol she had made. She placed it on the wall above the fire, pressing it into a crack. Daniel looked at it for a long time. What does it mean again? It means two souls survived something they weren't supposed to. He gave a short nod. Then it belongs here. For the next few days, they worked together to rebuild the shelter. Jera cleared the outer paths, marking them with new vines. Daniel repaired the broken roof. They built a second small hut from jungle wood, just outside the ship. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. One evening, while gathering fruit, Jera heard a strange sound. Laughter. She turned sharply. It was Daniel, He sat under a tree, holding a carved wooden animal she had made. A tiny, clumsy version of the jungle lion. Did you make this? He asked Dot. She nodded. It's ugly, isn't it? No, he said, still smiling. It's perfect. Jera laughed too, and the sound echoed through the trees. It was the first time in weeks she truly felt free. News of what happened traveled faster than wind. Scouts from other villages whispered of the human who killed the jungle beast. Children told stories of the alien girl who left her people to live with him. Some called Daniel a monster. Others called him a ghost. But most began to call him something else. The hero of the jungle. One morning, Jera found a basket near their shelter. Inside were fruits, herbs, and a note scratched in alien ink. For the one who saved the girl. She held it up to Daniel. He only raised an eyebrow. They're afraid of you, she said, smiling. But they're grateful too. He didn't reply, but she saw the corner of his mouth lift slightly. Weeks became months. Jera grew stronger, faster. Her hunting skills improved under Daniel's guidance. He taught her how to make Earth-style traps, how to move silently, how to find water during drought. She taught him how to listen to the trees, how to read the wind, how to feel the mood of the jungle. They didn't just survive, they lived. One evening, a storm rolled through the jungle. Rain poured hard, wind howled like wild beasts, and lightning danced across the sky. Jera stood at the door, watching it all in wonder. Daniel joined her. It's beautiful, she whispered. He looked at her instead. So are you. She turned. Surprised. He said it without hesitation, without fear. Just truth. She stepped closer. You never talk like that. I never had a reason to, he said. They didn't need more words. That night, the bond between them grew into something deeper. It wasn't just survival anymore. It was love. Later, much later, another girl stood near the fire, small, with soft brown skin and curious green eyes. Is it true? She asked. You really fought the jungle lion? Daniel, now graying and older, sat by the fire sharpening a blade. He looked up with a grin. It tried to eat your mother, he said. And I wasn't about to let that happen. Jera entered the hut with dried herbs in hand. She smiled at the child. Your father is exaggerating again. The little girl giggled. Jera sat down and looked at the flames. But yes, she whispered, he did save me, and I saved him. Daniel nodded, and together we saved each other. In time, the jungle had many names for them. Some called them protectors. Some called them ghosts. Some just called them the two who stayed. But deep in the trees, under the starlit sky, their story was whispered by the wind, carried by the leaves, and remembered by the beasts. Because in a wild world full of danger and silence, one girl had screamed. And one man had answered.